Hi, welcome back to the final chapter of Blender Introduction series. So far we have been discussing the very basics of Blender like interface, modeling, texturing, lighting, and now that we have covered all the basics, let's make a complete 3D model which is going to be a very cartoony looking aircraft, something like this, okay? And we are going to model this one and shade this model and maybe make a very little small loop of animation just to understand how the keyframes work in Blender. And since it's going to be a very long chapter, I will be dividing this into two parts. So today we are going to just model this one and give it very basic shaders, which is going to look something like this, okay? So without any further ado, let's download all the references for the background, which are blueprints. And I have roughly sketched it out for you guys, and it's not a perfect one, but can be used for this chapter. So link is in the description. Let's get started. Alright guys, so I'll just get rid of these objects in a new file, and let's import our background references for the model. So from the add menu, shift A, add menu, and import image and reference. Okay, so for the front view we'll import this front angle and place this in center with Alt G. All right, and we'll go to the side view and bring in another image reference, plane side, and place this in center. All right, and let's go to the top view and bring in one more image for the top view and reset the position to center. Okay, there is a bit of a mismatch, so I'll just make sure that all the lines are aligned together. Something like this, sorry. Okay, now let's go to the object data properties and enable the alpha for all the three panels. Sorry, use alpha 0.3, 0.3, and 0.3. All right, and we don't want to see these in perspective, so just disable the perspective for all three images so that we can only see them in orthographic view. All right, and let's rename this as a reference images and enable the selectable filter from the outliner and disable the selectable so that we don't misplace it or move it by mistake. All right, okay, one more thing, I'll just select all these and move these right above the grid, something here, something over here. Okay, so I'll make a new collection over here and name this one as plane, and let's bring in one circle from the add menu. From the pop-up over here, I'll align this to view and give this 16 vertices and place it in the center. And now let's just align this one, and sorry, I'll change this to bounding box and place it in the front view somewhere over here. Okay, so I'll start tracing this form for the main body. Okay, so let's get the form of the main body as close as possible. So I'll place the front circle over here, the first one somewhere over here. All right, now let's go to the edit mode and extrude this in Y direction and place it somewhere over here. All right, scale this up. Like I said, get the overall volume of the main body first. We'll work on the details later. Okay, one more extrusion and move it over here and get the last part. I'll add one more loop cut over here with Control R. Scale this up like this. Move this down so that we have a little more roundness over here. All right, now I can either add more loop cuts over here and here, or I can simply press Ctrl B and bevel this one, something like this. All right, I'll disable the grid and axis so that we have clear view over here. One loop cut over here, scale it up, move this in Y direction. So there is no particular rule or anything that how many segments you need. Just add enough so that you get the overall volume right, and keep the distribution equal. Like all the mesh should be clean and equally distributed, and don't add too many polygons. Keep it simple as possible. All right. Add one more extrusion and scale it down to close this part, something like this. Okay, now over here we can shift this line in somewhere over here and add one more loop cut over here. I'll extrude this in Y direction and scale this down for the front part, and there is a little bit of roundness in this area, so I can add one loop cut over here and scale this up so that when we apply subdivision this area will look round. All right, now we need a few polygons over here to make holes for these things, and so I'll add one loop cut over here and one over here. All right, yeah, over here. Okay, now I'll shade this one smooth. Okay, so overall form looks fine. I think we need some more roundness over here, so for that I can just grab the center edge and scale it up a bit, something like this. Maybe disable the proportionate editing, and we don't need it much. So let's see, let's add a subdivision surface over here to see if there are any distortions in the mesh. It's a very simple form, nothing complicated going on here, so feel free to explore and try out different things if you want. All right, let's disable the modifier and scale this up more. Now I'll make a duplicate of this just in case if I mess up the form a bit, just for the backup. So we need one hole over here, one hole over here, and one over here. All right, yeah. So we need instead of one loop over here, we need two loops, one here and one here, to make holes. Okay, now for that what I'll do is I'll dissolve this edge and bring in two loop cuts, okay, like this, and shift these up to match the roundness. Okay, now I need to distribute these loops are better, so what I can do is use the slide edge slide, and just move this over here, move this one over here, yeah, edge slide. All right, and make space over here, something like this. Now what this edge slide does is it's moving the edges, but it's not actually losing the roundness over here. Now if we simply move it, we are going to distort the geometry, but it's the edge slide is actually taking the average in these two and moving it in the center. All right, let's just shift this one over here. All right, now I'll select these four edges and scale these down like this. So that we have something which looks circular. All right, now there is an add-on which can actually make a perfect circle out of your vertices if you need, but it's quite a simple task at this moment. Let's stick to the basics. Okay. Now, even though there are six sided, these are six sides, we have perfect polygons over here, and everything is in polygons. And now let's select these faces and extrude these along normals. Okay, so that we have something like this. Extrude along normal, and yeah, and delete these faces. All right, now let's apply subdivision. So more or less these are looking like a circular forms. We can adjust the proportions. Yeah, this one was a little stretched out. So for these edges we want some hard corners, so we'll create some bevel over here, disable subdivision, create a bevel over here, and add one more loop for each of these. Okay, now let's see. Okay, so this looks fine, I guess, and I'll select all these vertices and shift these in y direction to match the blueprint. Okay, scale these up a bit. Let's see. All right, so this looks fine, and let's make other parts and come back to this for detailing later. uh, let's just add one cylinder over here and make it 8 sides. It's already 8 over here, and place it right in the center. Okay, all right, so let's isolate this one, and y is, yeah, so I'll delete these two faces, and let's select all the faces and press I to insert this. Okay, like this, and from the pop-up window over here I'll choose individual so that we have something like this. Okay, now while these faces are selected, I'll choose extrude along region and make make two extrusions inside like this. Okay, two extrusions, and leave it for now. So over here what we can do is select these two boundaries at the top and bottom, and let's create a extrude and scale it down. Okay, yeah, scale it down like this. So instead of I'll change the pivot to individual origins, so that when we scale it down it doesn't scale from the center but from the individual boundaries we have selected. Now extrude again and scale these in z direction. S, sorry, change this to bounding box center again, and scale this in z direction. Let's apply subdivision surface and see what is happening. So right now we need more loops on the top and in the center, so that this looks a much harder shape. So I'll add few loop cuts over here, scale these z direction. Let's select these two loops and make a bevel like this. Okay, we can add two more loops over here, two more loops over here, and one over here, one over here, and let's see how does this look now. Now I can delete these faces. I don't need these anymore. Select similar perimeter. Okay, now these will select all these faces, but it's also picking up these faces. What I can do is just deselect these with the middle mouse and delete faces. All right, shade smooth. Yeah, this looks much better. Let's go to the edge mode and push this up, push this down. Alright, so this looks fine. If you want, you can use the solidify so that this inner part looks complete, but I'm gonna leave it as it is for now. Place it over here and scale this down just to fit in this part. Alright, now from the active tool properties for the selection, I'll click on the origins and move the origin over here. Okay, now press Shift D and rotate this over here. Shift D and rotate this over here for something like this. Alright, now for the center part over here, what we can do is select this entire loop and let's just disable subdivision modifier for now and create a bevel over here. Alright, we can create one extrude along normals and give it 2 segments. Okay, alright. Alright, so this looks fine. What we can do now is make this part. First of all, let's just I'll go to the edit mode and in the face mode I'll select all these faces in the center. Now since we don't have one loop over here in the center, we can't select this one, but what we can do is add one loop cut over here, one over here. Alright, so now that now we can split the mesh in half. In the face mode, select these and delete faces. Alright, now I'll add a mirror modifier over here so that whatever detail we add over here will work here as well. Alright, I'll shift the modifier to the top. Let's select these vertices in the center and shift them in X direction. Enable the clipping option over here. In the mirror modifier, enable clipping so that we can't overlap these areas. Okay, and it will perfectly align. Alright, so now that we have our mirror modifier set up, let's start making a room for these cuts over here. Go to the edit mode and press Ctrl R and make a loop cut over here. Alright, now what we can do is we can select these faces and let's just make these one straight, or let's add one loop cut over here and scale them in Y direction and make it 0. For now, let's leave it as it is. We'll clean this up later. Select these edges, these faces, and press I for inset and make it something like this. Okay, now select these 2 edges and use edge slide and move them up a bit. You can scale these down as well. Now I'll select this entire loop and create a bevel over here, something like this, and now we can extrude this along. I'll reduce the bevel, make it a very thin line, and now extrude along normal, make 2 extrusions inside. Okay, enable the subdivision. So this looks fine, and now for this part what we can do is add a loop cut over here, add one over here, and select all these faces and create one inset here as well. Make this round something like this. Okay, now let's delete all these, select all these faces and create one more insect and extrude this in Z direction, and you can scale this down. Something like this. Add a loop cut over here, add loop cut over here and here. Okay, now you can select all these faces, or you can simply press Ctrl R and make a duplicate of this, separate, selection, right? Now select all these faces and use extrude along normals like this. So this looks fine. I'll enable the subdivision on this. So we have the main body now. What we can do is we can start modeling these areas now. All right, so I'll select the main body and go to the edit mode and select these edges in the front, or you can just bring in another circle in the front view, make a circle and make it 18 sides and yeah, align it over here. Okay, I'll rename this one plain main body and hide this. Okay, now this circle over here, I'll align this to the front part and go to the edit mode, create an extrusion in Y direction, scale this down, press Ctrl R to make a loop cut and make this round like this. Okay, you can create a bevel. Just make sure we have a good round looking shape over here. All right, okay, let's shade this smooth and apply subdivision surface on this one, and now let's select everything, create one extrusion and scale this down like this, and create one more extrusion and move this inside like this. Okay, extrusion, scale it down, extrusion, move it inside, extrusion, scale it up again. Okay, so that we have something like this. Select this part as well and create one extrusion, scale it down 2 times. Okay, yeah. So I just cleaned it up a bit. There were 2 edges over here, so it was creating some since these edges were too close, they were creating some distortion over here. So I removed that loop and connected this one to the previous one. All right, what we can do is I'll just make a new collection and disable this old one, so that all the main parts are in the new collection. Okay, so I'll make a we can bring one cylinder with maybe just the eight sides. Okay, and let's align it in the center. Over here, and go to the edit mode and push all the vertices with extrusion in y direction, sorry, yeah, y direction, and scale this down like this. Okay, now add a loop cut over here with Control R so that we have something round. Extrude this one in y direction, scale this down. Now what we can do is we can grid fill this, yeah, and we can push this one in y direction and apply subdivision surface. Okay, like this. Shade smooth. And for this part over here, what we can do is we need 3 wings. Okay, so we'll make one segment for this, one for this, one for 3 and 3, 6 sides. So we'll create one circle over here and make it view aligned, and we can make it 12 sides. Okay, and move this over here right in the center and scale it down like this, right behind the this part. Go to the edit mode and let's select all the edges and create an extrusion in y direction like this. All right, and now let's create one loop cut in the center and give it some roundness. Okay, now let's bevel these 2 edges to make room for the cut we need to make for the wings. Now let's select these 2 faces, and these 2, and create one inset. Okay, like this. Make sure the individuals is not selected, otherwise it will pick these 2 as 2 separate polygons. Now what we can do is extrude along normal 2 times to make this go inside. Okay, all right, now let's apply one subdivision on this one and shade this smooth. So for these wings, what we can do is let's make a duplicate of these 2 polygons, or let's just select yeah, let's make a duplicate of this and separate selection. All right, go to the edit mode and scale this down, move this over here, scale this down. Okay, now I'll control click over here to make an extrusion, sorry, and select these 2 and move this down over here. Okay, go to the vertex mode and push this out a bit over here, and now let's add 3 loop cuts and 1 over here to make it a strong end. Okay, yeah, now let's select all these faces in the front and create one inset like this. Okay, now I'll select this entire loop and create a bevel and push this along normals 2 times to create a nice crease. Okay, for this we can do the same thing. Let's go to the edit mode and select these 2 faces and make it inset. Let's insert this one more time and select this loop, move this along normals, something like this. Alright, add a edge loop over here. Now let's create a duplicate of this and place it over here, minus 120 degree, and one more, place it over here, minus 120. Okay, so this should be fine. And let's see what more we need. For over here we can bring in one circle, mesh, and circle, and give it 18 sides and place it somewhere over here. Okay, you can use align command if you want, X direction, and now let's move it into something like this. Now let's create one extrusion in Y direction and scale this down like this. Okay, now what we can do is we can use the same method what we did for this part over here. Select all the faces with 3 and use insert command. Okay, and make sure the individual is enabled, otherwise it won't insert individual faces. And now we can use extrude along normals and make 2 extrusions, 3 actually, and let's select this loop, let's select this loop and make 1 extrusion in the Y direction, and select this loop, extrude it again, scale it down, extrude it again, and scale, push this inside. Something like this. Okay, now let's add a few more loop cuts over here and here and here, so that when we apply a subdivision modifier it looks a stronger shape. Dissolve edge, let's try again. Something like this. Okay, shade smooth. Alright, so it's slowly shaping up, and we need a couple of more objects over here and here. But first let's just make this area for the wing. Okay, around the wings there is a small rim. Now for this, what we can do is we can create one circle over here, rotate this in Y direction, and select half of the vertices and push these over here and here. Just have enough vertices for to make this area look round. Don't add too much. Something like this. And now what we can do is select everything and extrude this like this. Okay, and scale it down like this. Now let's align this to this part, rotate this, and bring it closer to the object, so that now let's apply one shrink wrap modifier and choose the main body part over here. Okay, now select all the faces and align them with this shape over here and make it something like this. Okay, let's add some offset to this. Instead of nearest surface point, use use target normal project. Okay, now this will make everything perfectly round. All right, now let's apply this shrink wrap modifier in the object mode, and let's create one extrusion. Sorry, now let's create one extrusion along normals. Okay, create one more extrusion and apply one subdivision modifier. Okay, now let's create a duplicate of this and select only this internal edge and delete all other faces, all other edges. Okay, and let's extrude this in X direction like this. Let's go to the top view. Sorry, rotate this over here, control click or extrude, and rotate this over here. Now let's see if the normals are working fine for this object. In the edit mode, enable the normals. Yeah, this looks fine. So disable the normals again. Now let's select this center edge and scale this up in Z direction and make it look slightly thicker, and this as well. Okay, create a bevel over here. Yeah, and let's select this one and extrude this and scale this in Z direction like this. We can extrude and scale it out again in Z direction. Sorry, S and Z, and one more extrusion and move it inside like this. Let's select this loop and push this in X direction inside the plane so that we see it fully connected. Now let's apply one mirror modifier for this as well, and mirror object, choose the main body. Same for this mirror modifier, mirror object, the main body. Now we have the wings on the both sides. All right, so now I'll just isolate this, and I'll select this one and select the reference images and isolate both. Sorry, make it selectable. Yeah, so now what we need is we need to make this part over here. Now for that I can now there are 1 2 3 4 5 6 sides, 6 extrusions in this one, and these look like the extrusion of 2 polygons and in ratio to extrusion of 3 polygons over here. This is 5 plus 5 plus 5, and total is going to be 30 vertices something. Okay, so I'll create a circle and make it 30 sides. Now let's scale this down and place it in the center like this. Move this over here. Now let's select all the vertices and create an extrusion and scale it up. Create one more extrusion and scale it up. Move this inside, and then we can create one more, few like this, and now let's select these group of 2 edges. All right, so now that we have all the edges selected, create an extrusion and scale this up like this. Okay, now select all these boundaries and this one, and scale push this inside with extrusion like this. All right, let's apply one subdivision and shade this smooth. Alright, now let's select this internal edge and make a duplicate of this and separate this one. Selection. Now let's select this and push this inside. And scale this up. Create an extrusion and scale it up. And you can add one loop cut over here. Make a bevel. And extrude along normals. And create something like this. Okay. Shade smooth for this one. Now over here we can add a we can add few loop cuts to make these corners sharp. For some reason these two edges uh, there is a overlap, multiple faces over here. So what we can do is, let's see if the same issue is here as well. So I'll delete half of this model and faces and apply one mirror modifier and push this on top and yeah, enable clipping. That's all. You can apply this one. Now let's see if that issue is gone. Yeah. So more or less I think our model is complete. We need to add few more details. Let's enable the cavity and save this file as a new version. Alright, so I'll push these, I'll select these and push these out a bit so that there is some gap over here and the body, and then yeah, complete few of these areas. Alright, and make an extrusion. Now let's create an extrusion and move this in Y direction so that it looks like a connected piece. We can create one more extrusion and scale this up like this. Now similar to this part over here, let's create this section with the help of shrink wrap modifier. I'll create two segments and I'll use insert command and make it something like this. Okay, let's add few loop cuts over here and here and delete these faces. Now select this entire boundary and extrude and scale it up. Now in the side view, let's align this to our model. Or what we can do is we can enable the snapping option. In the edge mode, align target to rotation to target and change this to face. Yeah, something like this. Okay, now disable the modifier and let's apply one shrink wrap and choose the main body. Okay, and change this to target normal project. Something like this. Alright, let's change the offset a bit and now apply the shrink wrap modifier. Now let's select these faces and extrude along normals, push these inside, and also for select the outer part and extrude along normal 2 times like this. Shade smooth. Now what we can do is we can create a few boards over here, and do that I'll bring one torus object over here. And now what we can do is select the main body of the plane and select this edge loop and create a duplicate of this. Now I'll separate this one by selection and select this edge and this new torus we have created, and apply one array modifier and one curve modifier. Okay, and let's select this one, and first we need to convert this to curve from mesh. Okay, now choose this curve in the curve modifier and increase the number of counts in array modifier. Now you can make it number 12 and increase the number of offsets. So first let's just align these two curve we have created, and now let's go to the edit mode and scale. Let's scale this down. Okay, let's bring in the scale this down. I'm scaling the mesh and it's automatically scaling the spacing because or what we can do is instead of relative we can choose constant offset. Okay, like this. Yeah, make it something like this. Okay, shift this over here and scale this down, and now we have a few boards on the body. Okay, so this is another use of array modifier. You can use it in combination with a curve, and you can make things like a railing and like a number of pillars or like which are not in straight format and need to move along the curves. Push these down if you need to in the edit mode, and yeah, let's just disable this modifier. If you want, you can delete the rest of the faces, the one which are not visible, but for now I'll leave it as it is. For this over here I'll create another torus object and enable the snapping in the face mode, align rotation to target, and move this over here, and this will automatically align and place it over here. All right, now let's make a duplicate of this again and one more time and place it over here. All right, something like this. Now what we can do is we can easily create these kind of pipes with the curve objects. So far we have only made objects with from the add menu with the mesh section over here, but a very basic use of curve. There are plenty of more uses, but over here let's create one Bezier curve, and what we can do is let's go to the curve properties, object data properties, and make this one geometry depth. Sorry, yeah, just enable this part, the depth part, and scale this down. Okay, disable the snapping. Now what we can do is we can quickly place it over here, push this here and push this over here. All right, if you need, you can select these two and subdivide this to create one more point in the center, or you can also use control click and make extrusions just like polygon objects. Okay, I'll place it in the center over here. I can do this with snapping, I guess, but it's not perfectly working over here, so I'll manually make some adjustments and select these two, subdivide, so curve objects are very fun to play with for to make something like pipes and all. There are plenty more options over here, but we don't need to discuss this now. But we can create loft objects and create custom shapes for these. Right now it's only taking like circular shape, but we can make a profile shape and assign this as a profile for this curve. Okay, now let's make a duplicate of this and align this over here like this. Okay, give it some random shape, like how usually pipes have a random shape. All right, now press L to select all the linked and make a duplicate of this. All right, in the side view I'll align this over here, and let's delete these two vertices so that we can create new ones. And control click, rotate this one like this, and control click over here, something like this. Okay, now we can copy this torus from here, enable the snapping, and from the face this should work. Like this. All right, all right, so this looks fine, and if you want you can add few more pipes on the other side as well. It's totally up to you, and you can also improvise on design if you like and create your own design. Now let's see. Yeah, let's create this shape over here. Now what I can do is I can bring one simple plane 90 and align it over here. Okay, go to the edit mode, and in the vertex place it over here. We can place this one over here and this one over here. Now since this one is slightly curved, I can create two segments and push this edge over here, and this one give it some nice round shape. Okay, I'll add a loop cut over here and one loop cut over here. Okay, make this line straight. Let's add one over here. Let's select these and dissolve edges. Select this one and create one inset. Okay, like this, and we need one loop cut over here to make the end look more straight over here, and let's disable the modifier and add more loops over here and over here. Okay, something like this. Now let's select this part and create one extrude along normals and add more edge loops to make these corners look sharp, like this. All right, now we can select this entire loop outside and create one extrusion in the X direction like this, and apply one mirror modifier. Yeah, enable the clipping. Okay, so this looks fine, I guess, and we can shade this smooth. If you want you can make these edges sharper and create one bevel over here like this. Okay, select these vertices rotate these in x direction, make it something like this. All right, now I'll place this entire object somewhere over here in the middle, or I can select the main body and align this, yeah, x direction. All right, all right, now I need to connect this one to this. There is some connection in the reference, like this area. So for that, what we can do is let's select this and this entire loop and press shift D and separate this one by selection. Okay, so that you have this new curve. Okay, now this one is this one have a mirror modifier. Let's shift this to top and apply this one. Okay, and move this entire curve over here. Okay, now we need to match this profile. So what we can do is apply a shrink wrap and choose the main body so that it takes the shape of the body. Okay, you can change the offset a bit, 0.002. all right, now select everything and extrude this like this. Okay, scale this up in x direction and create a nice rim. Okay, and now let's move the move the shrink modifier on the top, and what we can do is we don't need these two edges. Yeah, dissolve edges. Instead, what we can do is we can add one over here and one over here. Okay, now let's apply shrink wrap modifier, and now in the edit mode select everything and extrude along normals like this. All right, now select the subdivision modifier and enable this one. So some problem with the extrude, I think. What we can do is first let's just check if all the normals are working correctly. All right, so normals are distorted because of shrink wrap modifier. So I can select everything and make normal, recalculate normals. Okay, and you can flip these normals to point it outside. Okay, yeah, give it some nice round shape like this, and now let's extrude this one. Okay, select everything. I want to give it some thickness, so let's use shrink flatten. Yeah, make it slightly thicker like this. Now for this one I can select all these edges. Let's disable the normals and move these down. Okay, and connect this to this area. All right, so more or less we are done. I think I'll just make a few more corrections over here. All right, let's go to the look dev mod and use some other HDRI. Okay, so this looks good, and we need to add a couple of more things, let's make this part over here. Now this is going to be a pretty simple one, I guess. I'll select this rim we created and select this entire edge, make a duplicate of this. All right, and separate this one in the edit mode by selection so that we have exact same profile. Let's go to the edit mode and make an extrusion in Z direction. Okay, like this, something like this. And in the front view, select this entire loop and scale this down like this. Okay, and add one loop cut over here and give it some roundness like this. All right, now I see some problem over here with the normals, so let's select let's see if there's a issue with vertices. Select everything and recalculate normals. Should fix this. Disable the normals and grid fill this top part. Okay, yeah, shade smooth, add one loop cut over here, and now let's select this loop in the last one and invert the selection, and now let's smooth vertices. Sorry, I can choose smooth from here. Yeah, so I'll instead choose the vertex selection, select this vertex loop, invert, and let's try and smooth this. Yeah, this works fine. So in the edge mode, actually it was picking up these edges as well, so I changed this to vertex mode. So right now we are working in EV, and let's just enable ambient occlusion, and let's increase the distance, and now let's see if we can improve anything over here. Okay, so I think more or less this model is done, and what we can do is complete few more areas like this one. We can create an extrusion and scale this, extrude, and scale this again. Okay, and maybe connect these two edges like this. Okay, and select these loops, and with the extrusion move them inside Z direction like this. Okay, so yeah, and we can also create one partition over here, create one bevel, sorry, control B for bevel, and extrude this along normal 2 times to create one hard line like this. Okay, for these holes over here which we created earlier, let's isolate this area. I think we can add few more loops over here. Let's go to edit mode. Yeah, control R and add one loop over here. Let's disable the modifier for now. Yeah, let's see. Okay, let's add one loop cut over here. One over here to make these corners look more sharp. Let's make the mesh more consistent. All right, and something like this. Create one bevel over here. Let's bring back the model and enable the modifier. Yeah, so in previous chapters we have worked with the cycle engine, but for now we'll use the EV and give these some very basic shaders and see if we can improve the quality a bit. Okay, like any improvisation if we can do. So even though the model is complete, I'm just looking around and seeing if there's an opportunity to make some better adjustments. Select this loop and give it a bevel. Something like this, and select this one and select this entire, yeah, and extrude along normal. Push these inside. Select this loop and extrude along normal. Alright, I can add few loop cuts over here to make these sharp ends. Alright, and I can select this edge loop and scale this up with the extrusion and create one more extrusion and move this outside so that this gap is closed. Something like this. Okay, I need to create this partition as well. So for that, what I can do is I'll just select the background plane and this and isolate these, and let's go to the face mode and select these faces, all these faces, and create one inset. Okay, and disable the individual, change the size of the inset and make something like this. Alright, and create one more inset like this, and now we can select these faces and create one extrude along normals like this. Okay, so this looks good and I'll just save it as a backup. Now not everything I've done is according to the background references. A few things are moving here and there apart, and I'm sure if I spend some more time and I could have matched it to the exact reference, but I don't think it's going to be too hard for you if you want to exactly make it like the background reference. Alright, okay, so I'll just make a new window over here, or vertical split, and change this to shader editor. Alright, now let's see if how things look with the colors. Okay, select everything and press M. M is for layers, or move to selection and choose plane 2. Okay, now disable the reference images. Right now I'm just going to give it some very basic shaders. Let's enable the rendered view for the EV and change this to scene world instead. Disable the scene world so that we can see the these HDRIs in the viewport. Okay, and if you want, you can increase the strength a bit. Now for this main body, I can bring in one simple red color and make it metallic. Okay, something like this. Now in the render properties, enable the screen space reflection so that you can see the reflections in the viewport, and if you want, you can enable the bloom as well, and in the screen space reflection, enable the reflections as well, so that if there is any transparent material, you will be able to see that as well. Okay, now I'll select these two, wings, and select the main body, press Ctrl L and transfer the material. Okay, or we can actually leave the metallic, roughness 2.9, specular 0.3. Okay, and we can use the same over here as well, materials, and maybe we can make a duplicate of material and change the color of this a bit, something like this. Increase the saturation all the way, maybe increase the value. For this we can use something completely metallic, decrease the roughness, select these two and select these two, select this one, Control L, transfer the material, and you can choose the same material over here as well and over here as well. Alright, for this we can bring one transmissive material, and for this for transmission to work in the viewport, go to the materials and over here screen space refraction, enable this one, and no roughness over here, and this should work. Alright, for this area create something darker, select this and apply the same material over here as well. I think there is some gap over here, so I'll scale this down a bit. And for this I can use a solidify modifier so that the glass have some thickness, and move this up. Let's put something over here inside so that we can see how the material is working, the reflection. Now I can change the index of reflection a bit, yeah, or maybe 0.9 something, yeah. And let's apply same material over here as well for now. And for these wires we can create something gray, and right now I'm just giving them very basic materials, and we can tweak these later. So I'm just using Control L command and transferring the materials, very basic ones. Alright guys, so I think our model is done, and in the video you might have seen one character over here. It was a very basic cylindrical character, and I'm sure by now you know how to make a very basic shape. So I'm not going to get into all that, and so I had created this very basic looking character just for the presentation purpose, and it's a very simple looking like thumb like shape and very basic looking stuff over here, nothing complicated. And I'm sure if you have been following the tutorials by now you should be able to make something like this. Okay, so I'll place it over here in the center, and right over here, and let's go to the rendered view. Okay, all right, so this looks good. I'm sure if you are using it for production you might want to give it some more careful thought, but for beginners I think it's a really fun thing to begin with. And I'm sure we can do one chapter where we make everything perfect from the topology point of view, like how things work in the production. But I don't want to load you guys with like too many details at this moment, and I want to keep things very light and fun. But yeah, if you're making your own small short film or anything, and this model will work perfectly fine for it. Okay, so and now even though we are working in EV, everything else like things such as lighting and material works pretty much like how they work in the cycles. You don't need to give any different kind of treatment to the material. These would work exactly the same way with the cycles as well. It's just that the accuracy of render is something which is different. So but for non-photorealistic things, EV works just fine, and in fact it can work in some cases you can achieve photorealistic stuff. So what we can do is in next video we can maybe add a few texture details and make materials a bit more richer, and maybe we can add a logo over here, paint few scratches, and combine few materials and make them look much more a little more detailed, better than just a very basic stuff. And then maybe we can create some very basic animation where these the propeller is turning and wheels, maybe things are moving, and like a very small motion. Okay, and for now I'll just conclude this day with something like this. So, and I'm sure you know how to make a render of the images by now. Right now we don't have any camera, but if you want to take some render, just click somewhere over here or anywhere and place a camera, press Ctrl Alt 0 to align the camera. Now go over here and click on the lock camera to view. Okay, now we can select the camera. You can either select the camera from here, or you can right click on this border and this will select the camera, and you can change this focal length to 110 so that there is not so much of perspective. Alright, so now let's take a render out of this, and what we can do is these HDRIs, right now we are using the environment HDRI. These won't work in the render, so let's enable the scene world, and from here in the environment click on use nodes. Yeah, and select background, and from the texture, environment texture, and open one HDR from the program files, Blender 2.82 data files, Studio Lights, sunset.exr. And also you can select the camera and use depth of field. Okay, now this would ask focus on which object. You can choose this main character or the glass around it, and you can also adjust the f-stop parameter if you want. If you decrease it, it's going to be more blurry, so be careful about this. And these parameters work much more accurate in cycles render, but for this purpose I think it's pretty cool, pretty decent. And yeah, I can increase the trace precision to 1 and also 0.5. Alright, so I'll leave it as it is, and so we have the camera set up and everything. Now let's press F12. Okay guys, so here's our render, and since EV is a real-time render, it took me only 5 seconds to render this, and like you can see the quality is pretty good, and things look pretty decent with EV as well. And you can use the EV for like very quick renders. Okay, so for now I'm going to just conclude this day with this model and very basic materials, and in next chapter maybe we can add few more details such as scratches and maybe few imperfection maps, and add more detail to the glass scratches, such as just like how we did in the shading part. And also we'll create one fun little animation and make some much nicer render than this one. Okay, this is a very basic one, I know that, and but I'm sure maybe we can make another video where we create a very professional model where topology and everything is just perfect, and we talk about all the details just from the point of view of topology. Okay, and how the modeling works in the production environment. And you can if you're making something of your personal like your own short films and all, so a basic modeling like this can work. And I'm sure for beginners this is too much already, and I don't want to overload you with information and technical details. So we are going to actually, so there will be plenty more tutorials and things we are going to discuss. So let's not worry about this today and have fun with whatever you're creating. I'm sure you will be able to perfect this as you move forward in this journey. Okay, so some of you have shared the stuff which you have made during this tutorial series. So I really like the results, and I will be sharing some of the posts which the followers have shared and what they have made. So we'll be doing a community showcase, and I'll share the post which I like the most. But I'll encourage the rest of you as well to not just binge watch all the tutorials, and also follow these and make something and do share. Okay, so do share your version of today's model, and I look forward to see you guys in the final chapter. And let's conclude this series and make something even more fun than this, and let's add some life to this one. Okay, so see you guys in the next chapter. Thank you.